I was just saying that I just watched a short that Xander just made since this film, right?
Yeah.
So, but I was looking at some of his other work, and I was completely amazed by it. So, I'm just going to throw out some titles here of some films that you've worked on as a director, writer, editor, producer, and I think we'll see why I'm saying this. So, like Lance Lizardi,
Yes.
Love Addict, Flushing Flesh. Blood.
These are, this is like stuff I've edited.
Psychic Cheerleaders.
Oh, yeah, that one was pretty good. Michael's in Psychic Cheerleaders.
Love is a Rhombus. So I think we're seeing sort of there's a theme going on here, right? So, blood.
What's the theme?
I'm not sure. We're figuring it out, but I think there is a theme. So, but this film comes from a short, right? You guys did this short, and tell us about the short.
We did a short.
2012.
Does this work? Yeah. So I had an idea for this movie. I guess I'm gonna just take you back a while. Okay, so Michael and I met in Tallahassee, Florida. I was in school, and I was basically coming to a new way of thinking about how to make movies, and it was to, I guess, see images that were from sort of anxieties I had growing up that I thought made me feel like a freak, growing up, and. So we did a project together called The Virgin Herod, which was the first time we worked together. I was just pointed to Michael as someone that we might get along, and that was a mostly wordless movie, but it had a lot of extreme actions. I remember the first time we did rehearsal was we had to do a wordless rehearsal for the movie, and it was interesting. And then I had to come up with a second idea for a movie back then, and I came up with something based on. When I was younger, I had, and still actually now, I had trichotillomania. And when I read about it online, I was like, oh, okay, there are other people that have this. This is interesting. And I thought it was interesting that there wasn't a movie that really had those images in there. And all I wanted to do was write romance movies. So it's okay, I'm going to try to figure out how to put this anxiety into these romance movies and, make romantic body horror, which were, I had several shorts that were like that. So when I came up with the idea for this, it was a character with a mild trichotillomania who meets a character with a severe trichotillomania, and they have a romance, and they make their habit catastrophic, similar to a mild smoker who meets a chain smoker, and how they could what does the bad relationship of that look like? And so when I envisioned this, I was okay, this has to take place in an area that is really cold. So if people pull out all their hair, they could sort of get away with not having anyone notice. And they're just stuck in this area. Maybe in the original script, they were it was a little more snowed in. And so yeah, I moved to New York specifically to make the movie, and then I realized I had no idea how to make it. I had a 70-page script that was mostly the last half of this movie. Had the same exact last line of the disco ball at the end. And I was I don't know how to make this. And then so we're oh, let's just make a short film. Let's figure it out. And the short is, I actually take it off.
I think I read a lot of the
original
drafts before we did the treatment for the short, which was...
the short was different. Yeah. So in the short, it's I was well, what would it be if it was a little funnier? And I think in the ending, I was just still figuring out how to make movies with the crew and with Michael and with other people. And we shot in the Grossinger's resort in the Catskills. And, the ending of that short is a sex scene. And then the female character throws up a giant hairball. And it's after she's been eating his hair the entire movie without him knowing.
So you did the short not because you were doing the let's make the short to get the money to it wasn't a logical we have to do this to do this. You were doing it really to experiment.
Yeah, there wasn't much calculation behind
writing and stuff.
And how did tell us how Chelsea Lopez came to you guys, or how you came to her for this?
Yeah. That was one of the biggest challenges because, even though we were at one point, I always wrote this part for Michael, even though there might have been, he likes to remind me of this, a moment where we were trying to figure out how to get money for the movie and, offering it to more famous people who also know. And, but I was really happy and relieved and excited to make the movie with Michael, and I'm glad it happened that way. Chelsea, that part was really hard to cast because I at the time I was pretty untested and it requires a lot of trust. And I was just basically asking everyone I knew around me who could be this part. And we were working with the casting director for a little bit, and we had to stop working with her because we couldn't pay her anymore. But she actually came back on to cast Michael Godair, Kyle, just that part while we were filming because we needed someone dropped out, we had to replace. And so for Chelsea, once I met her, I knew, like, after like having a conversation with her for like a half an hour, I think I just watched her like eat a hamburger. I knew that she could play the part and she should play the part. And I asked Michael, I was like, Michael, do you think this works? And we were like looking at a few other people, and Michael was like, please, like, Chelsea, this is right. And I think Chelsea, her life at that moment was sort of, she didn't know if she was living in New York or LA or New Jersey or wherever. And I had to kind of really convince her that this was going to be a movie that she wouldn't be embarrassed about, and that it would be like a good movie, and to, you know, earn her trust to be able to have her you know, be vulnerable on screen.
So take us from you made the short to developing, you know, how did the feature develop? What did you learn and what did you kind of do from that point on? And then how did you set this film up actually?
Yeah, so like I said, we were trying to get it financed like traditionally, and it wasn't working. And I had a producer who I was like, I'm going to put X amount of money in. This is everything I have. Will you match me? And he's like, okay. Like, you're going to do it? I was like, yeah. And then so like on January 1st, like 2015, we started, you know, scouting and working on the movie. And I hired a friend to be a UPM, and we started getting locations. And there was one location that was like the hero location of the movie that once we discovered this place, which was it was the club, it was the warehouse, and then we ended up using it for different rooms. Once I saw that place and I had to spend a lot of money on you know, renting it, yeah, I knew we had to do it.
We ended up casting the landlord.
Yeah, we casted the landlord as
Which
Al.
role? Which
as
role?
Al, the fourth biggest speaking part in the movie. Yeah.
Which one's Al?
Al, he's the owner of the lumberyard.
All right.
He never acted before.
The supporting roles are really like genuinely well cast.
Oh,
like
yeah.
they're like, you really feel like they're for real.
Hey, thanks. Yeah. Well, you know, with like, yeah, bit parts, it's fun to cast like whoever really feels right, and it doesn't have to be, you don't need any sort of name recognition or, you know, some of our bit parts were SAG, some of them weren't, and it's just whatever felt right. And yeah, that was one of the most fun parts.
So tell us about the music, because it's really, I mean, from the second the film starts, it's something that's super noticeable. And really, who were you working with and why? And
yeah, our co-producer and music supervisor, his name is Garrett Morris. And yeah, so I wrote like maybe like 20 songs into the scripts like an idiot. And yeah, don't ever do that. Well, you know, the song you think it should be is never the song it will be, right? And yeah, so we didn't use any of the music I wrote into it. But we were pointed in the direction of certain labels that had a lot of like gems, had a lot of really good tracks. And we just poured through them and figured out a way to make them work. And most of them I thought was really like fortuitous were from Miami soul. So, and some of like the more like metal music was, some of it was composed for the movie, and some of it was just like friends of mine and bands.
And the fluctuating mix, like the slowing down and the speeding up, and it had a really interesting quality to it. When did you decide did you always want to do that, or were you just playing around in the mix?
Well, yeah, I guess like it goes into like the whole movie has this like ugly, beautiful. You know, it's sweet and it's sour, right? Black and blue, and yeah. And I wanted all that to be like in the music and in the colors and then
yeah, I was going to ask about the colors because it's really nicely shot. Who shot the film?
Yeah, Matt Clegg, who we were friends with. You were hanging out with him earlier today.
Yeah, he's gonna be my roommate soon.
Yeah, he shot the movie. He was my roommate for like 5 or 6 years, and yeah, he shot a lot of my shorts as well.
Yeah, I liked how, I mean, you know, with a small film like this, you never know what is, you assume everything's intentional, but there's also a question of like how intentional, like I definitely felt like the first kind of quarter of the film, maybe half of the film was a very like gray and rough. And then you get into her world and it seems super colorful all of a sudden and really really a nice subtle blend of change.
Opposites attract, you know.
Yeah.
Michael, his character is supposed to be like, he had his own uniform, his own colors, and we had the colors of things that he was sort of attracted to, and
So how did you get into this? How did you get into this role? I mean, was this like, were you just losing hair left and right all the time, or like were you plucking stuff out 50 times a take, and was it a stretch or?
No, I mean it was. I was plucking, but. I mean, when you're on a movie like this, you just do it, and shooting that many days. That was the first time I'd ever done like 30-day shoot. Had days off here and there, but you're pretty much just living it. And I didn't really think twice about it.
Michael, by the end, was like the first take was spot on. And, like the beginning, I think it's always like hard to get to the moment where like you're just always making the right decision. Or maybe you'll do it a few different times. I was reading a lot of interviews with Klaus Kinski where he was like so mad at directors for asking for multiple takes. He's like, do you ask the volcano for 2 takes?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I mean, I think no matter how much preparation you like put into like the month before it, if you're lucky enough to have that much time, it doesn't, I mean, it makes a difference, but when you show up on set, you don't know what you're doing again, and you're figuring out chemistry, and you're figuring out the character all over again. And then once you hit a stride in the middle, it all makes some sort of sense, hopefully. I hope it did.
Right, you just start to like kind of live the life of whatever you're in every day.
Yeah.
Do anybody have any questions that we can throw out here? Yeah.
How did you really look so grungy? Was that like?
I was pretty grungy. Some of it was makeup.
Do you feel like the character's over here and your personality's over here, or there's some of you in there?
There's definitely some of me in it. I mean, that was. I mean, I got kicked out of my apartment in the middle of shooting, so it was kind of that like weird parallel that I wasn't expecting. Yeah.
How was it shooting in winter? Like and where were you guys when you guys were not in Brooklyn?
So we shot in Staten Island. That was where the warehouse was. So, and there's some exteriors that were also Staten Island. We shot a few days in Brooklyn, a day in Queens. The lumberyard is in Hackettstown, New Jersey. The junkyard was in Kearney, New Jersey. The truck stop diner was in Kearney, New Jersey. And then the exterior facade of that, of the warehouse was in Connecticut.
And did you guys run into much, I mean, obviously the usual thing is like we got to shoot where there's good weather so that we don't have any days that get scrapped and how was...
So we shot on February 17th is when we started shooting 2015. And then we shot for it was kind of perfect weather the entire time before the movie. It was very overcast and snow on the ground. And I think the last day of shooting, we saw the snow melting, and then that was over.
Yeah, I remember showing up to set the first day, and winter hadn't been that bad, and just walking to the van to get picked up, it was like 6 inches, and I was like, all right.
Yeah, it snowed the first day.
This is what it's gonna be like. All right.
Yeah, it was lucky for us.
Perfect.
And also in terms of we were making a movie for a very small amount of money, and we were asking a lot of people to come in as favors or as low rates, just friends, and people have more time when it's yeah, the people weren't getting really hired on a lot of jobs in that month.
Yeah, it's a good time, right?
Yeah,
makes sense. Any other questions? Yeah.
So, you guys, it was a really great film. I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
It was really, really good. What was your full budget, and are you, I have a couple of questions. What was your full budget, and we're producers, and we're doing a feature film right now, and where are you going with this right now? Are you entering it in festivals, and where do you plan to kind of distribute it and things like that?
They say you're not supposed to tell the budget of the movie, but I'll actually tell you. But first, I'm gonna say, so we shot this, like I said, 3 years ago. It took a while to get into a festival. We didn't get into a lot of them, and then we got into the Venice Film Festival in 2016, which is my mom didn't know what it was, but I understand that it's a big deal, and it's one of the top 3 in Europe, and it's that's where Shape of Water premiered, whatever. Thank you. And so that was really awesome. And then we played probably it was 25 festivals, and we turned down a lot in 12 countries. Yeah. And so that was really awesome, especially because I hadn't really made a film that broke through, not even a short that broke through in that way. And it's hard. It was a hard movie to sell. The reason why we're here is because it's coming out tomorrow in New York, LA, San Francisco, Kansas City, eventually Ottawa, Canada. Thank you. And and then it'll be on iTunes Video on Demand and all that stuff about a week or 2 later. And so yeah, it's out now. And yeah, the production budget was, I wanted it to be 50,000. It ended up being 80,000. And probably with the little bit of the music rights and the mix, it was maybe 90.
Nice. Thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Guys, it was really incredible, really amazing. Xander, in particular,
Thank you.
As a writer-director, I know, you mentioned about the short and all that, but how is your process as far as I know there's also not a lot of dialogue, which I really enjoyed, but there's so many different images. So I'm just wondering, as a filmmaker as well, do you all of that was super clear in your head as you're writing it, or is it coming as you're shooting and you're creating things?
Yeah. A lot of the images were really clear in the writing, probably more so than the dialogue. The dialogue, I'm usually just I beg everyone to improvise, but not necessarily to improvise, but to use their own words to say the meanings of the things I want, and to understand their characters, and trying to give people agency. Not everyone loves to improvise, because some people more from a theatrical background, and they want to they love the page. And I usually like to have the actors tell me if they love a line and they want to keep it and say it. The images are usually sort of how I begin, and in the search for locations, you end up sometimes coming up with new images, and new things happen. I think personally with every movie I want to be able to discover a lot. I would love to write 400 scenes and film 300 of them and have 100 of them in the movie, the best 100. But everyone's different, and some people need they like to write and have the line said at the exact intonation they thought it in their head, and it has to come at the right time. And so I think basically what I'm saying is, you could form your own path, and
Yeah, and I think on the more recent stuff we've worked on, it's been more about just being in a place and letting things happen and responding to them. And I think there's some magic that happens at least once a day.
Yeah, we're always trying to capture lightning in a bottle,
Yeah.
Create a fertile environment for beautiful mistakes to happen.
Yeah.
I really like it was mentioned before, but the cast of characters that pop in and out. And I said, I wish this was longer, because I want to see what is that Russian, I guess it was Russian.
Yeah.
When you say, what's he gonna do with it?
He's great.
You're gonna drive us. You're not gonna drive us. Apparently so.
Yeah.
Was that? I wonder how much like that.
You wanted a reprise of him. Yeah. Yeah. He was great.
And then the diner owner, you know, you just look at the guy and you see Christopher Lloyd type. He's a madman. Yeah. You know, he doesn't have to utter a word. And that's how dictum casting is, what, 80-90% the physicality before.
Yeah.
And then Al, you know, so these guys are memorable. They pop out. Kind of reminded me of the weird remake of the Twin Peaks, where the characters
The new Twin Peaks.
pop in. And like, wow. But it was wonderful casting.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love casting, and as long as I wish I could like duplicate myself, so I could do casting and then do locations and stuff like that. But yeah, we got a little lucky also. Like the person who was in the diner, like I never met him until he showed up. I just sort of saw a reel, and he submitted on Backstage, and I was just like, this guy's awesome. He could be good. And then yeah, he was, he was great. Yeah, I read about that, and I actually try to look back and see.
It wasn't bad. It tasted like Campbell's.
Yeah, I was just reading. I was just like looking online. I think it was on like Yahoo Answers, and I was like reading about truck stops, and someone mentioned the ketchup soup, and I just thought it was really cool, and I wanted to put it in the movie.
As you do, research truck stops.
Yeah, Yahoo Answers, yeah, exactly.
Anyone else have a question for him? Yeah.
To Michael, so you've never done any acting before?
I had done acting. I had acted in a lot of shorts. I think I had grown up acting, doing like musical theater and stuff in like high school. Then Xander made me do a film, and I kind of liked it. And yeah, I've done a couple of features. I did one feature before where I was just like a minor character, and this was my first lead in a feature film, which was really exciting.
So
Thank you.
Tell us what you guys have going on next.
Yeah, I'm trying to make another movie in Florida. I've been sort of developing it for maybe a little less than a year, and we just filmed a little test, like a proof of concept, like last month. We went to this very strange race called a swamp buggy race, and Michael played a little character, and we filmed him from on like a 400 millimeter lens from far away, doing his thing. And trying to develop that. And this has been like I had done a short, after this. Then I released.
So will the feature be another genre, similar genre, or
it's more of like a mystery thriller, a similar like visceral textural experience. I'm trying to maybe have a bigger audience. Like I describe it as like a Chinatown in the Everglades, something kind of. I think it's nice to be able to figure out how to communicate with more people. I understand that this movie, and I'm really grateful that it seemed to have a nice response. Is not for everyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, anything on the horizon aside from?
Oh, I mean, I've got a horror movie coming out sometime. Who knows?
It's the joy of being an actor. Sometime you show up to your thing, and then hopefully it finishes. And
and then some other stuff, sort of like this, with like treatments that we've shot, and more ideas and exploring characters than anything, which is more exciting to me than actually shooting the damn thing.
You were just in something, right? Like 2 months ago, you were filming.
Yeah, it was sort of this Southern romance surrealist piece.
Yeah. Sometimes, you film things, you don't know if it's going to work or not. Yeah. Hey.
I'm pretty excited about that one.
Yeah.
I got a couple scars from it.
Yeah.
Very good. Cool. Thank you so much for coming out, everyone.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
tell your friends to go see it. It's opening.
Thanks you all for coming.
All right.
Yeah, we're at the Cinema Village starting tomorrow. We're playing 5 times a day for 1 week.
If you want to see it.
Yeah.
Again.
But maybe tell a friend.
Yeah, thank you so much.
The Cinema Village. It's like a couple blocks from Union Square. Yeah, 12th.